Hello everyone, welcome to the video. This will be the first video in a series that I am calling Becoming the Warrior. I'm going to try to do these in steps as I see the steps are that one needs to take to become their own warrior. As I feel like that is something that I have been doing and working on myself over the last few years, um, especially with the trauma of the loss of my children on top of the other issues in my life. And I want to talk more about these things, not only for people who are dealing with CPS, but other mental health and toxic relationship issues. All of those kinds of things I really want to talk more about. And so this is the first video, and the first step, becoming the warrior, is healing the inner child. Because I feel like it's very important to understand that you have an inner child. It all starts there. Even those of you who think that your issue may have started with CPS, for most of you, I can almost guarantee that there was some kind of toxicity or traumatic damage that was done to you starting as a child. It could even be something as simple, like, let's say you had good parents, but it could be as simple as someone that was a role model or a person in authority, even if they were in your life for a very brief period of time, that could have said or done some very toxic and hurtful things to you and damaged your, sense of self and self-worth and just your mentality and your personality. And that trauma carries over into adulthood, but it goes into the subconscious where most people are not even aware of it. But that is the first step, is rediscovering your inner child and helping that child to heal. Because the reason why I want to point this out is because imagine we have a child here, just imagine. And so your inner child is here, okay? Your inner child has been damaged, it has been traumatized, and so just imagine that this child is curled up in a fetal position, sucking its thumb in the corner, and is afraid, The first step is to making the inner child feel safe. You can't go up to that child that's sitting in the corner, curled up in a fetal position and say, hey, you stop your whining and crying and, just get over it, man, and get up and get out there, that you have battles to fight. You can't do that to a child that has been traumatized like that. And you shouldn't do it to yourself either. And so the first step is we have to make the inner child feel safe, because the inner child does not feel safe, and the inner child has been traumatized. It can happen in adulthood because your inner child is always a child. Your inner child never grows up. There's always going to be a part of you that is still a child. And so on that level, even in adulthood, it can happen, but it's a bit more complex than as far as going about how you fix these things, but I still would believe that it starts with the inner child. And so how do we fix this? How do we make the inner child feel safe? Well, for most of you, you have a critic in your head that is constantly telling you everything that you do wrong and is bullying you, reminding you of every traumatic thing that has ever happened to you, and is repeating these things that are self-sabotaging, character, what would you say, not diminishing, but sabotaging your character, basically. Self-sabotaging and attacking your character. Um, and maybe repeating things that were actually said to you, or things that weren't said verbally, but were said by the actions of others. Like those of us who have lost our children, there's something that is being said without it actually being said, though many times they do actually say these things. I've had people who felt like somehow me losing my children gave them the privilege to just attack me verbally in any way that they wanted to. So, that is something I think a lot of us have had to face in some way or another, whether you have dealt with CPS or not. But the first step is to making the inner child feel safe. And how you do that is you have to become your own parent. You have to parent your inner child. And, for those of us who don't have children or who have lost children, parent your child, your inner child, yourself, the way that you would your child, or the way that you wish your parents had. Like I said, for some people it may be a little bit more complex than this. I'm just going to say this for very, very few. I'm sure most of you this isn't the case, but for a very select few, maybe you don't know what being a good parent is. And so, maybe that was never modeled to you, and maybe you don't know how to be a good parent yourself. And so what I would do then is I would do some research, find some characters that you find are admirable, and pick one, and that's what I would want as my mom or as my dad. And pretty much you envision this character talking to your younger self, your inner child, whenever these things come up, and working through those emotional flashbacks. Part of this exercise I have gotten from Richard Grannon's treatment of C-PTSD and the emotional flashbacks that come with that. But I am connecting it along with some other things that I have found that helped me on my journey with this program, or I guess it's not a program, it's just a video series that I'm sharing with you guys completely for free. But that is the first step. You have to become your own parent, and you have to get good at parenting yourself. And that's the one child that CPS cannot take from you, and it's you, your own inner child. You will always have that child, and it's your responsibility to parent that child accordingly in the best way that it will be able to function and have a successful life, whatever way that you define that being. And so that is where it all begins. You have to heal the inner child. You have to overcome the emotional flashbacks, the inner critic, and the bully, the trauma and the abuse that you have went through throughout your life. And I would just do that, do these exercises and really, imagine, actually visualize. You can take turns visualizing being the parent talking to the child, or being the child and having this parent figure talking to you and telling you, that you are, good, or you know, just whatever it is that you think a loving, responsible parent would do. Um, and for me, it helped um, exponentially. I can't even express how much it helped having that. Um, and like most of my stuff actually didn't come from childhood, although I'm sure everyone has something that happened to them as a child that they need to overcome. But you may need to go back and dig a little bit if you really want to know. But even if you don't know where your trauma came from, I believe that this will help you. And so that is the first step to becoming the warrior. I hope that you like this video, and I hope that you find it helpful. I plan to do more on on this series as I come up with these different steps, looking back over my journey. And, you know, of course, as I go on my journey, I will be adding more steps because I don't feel I'm quite there yet. And I don't know if any of us will ever fully be there, but I feel probably over 50% of the way there. I feel much more closer to that than I did a year, well, especially a year ago, but even at 6 months ago. Um, and so these things that have helped me, I want to share with you guys so that all of you can also become warriors in your own life, and we can stand together and fight against this evil that has taken over our country. I'm not trying to sound esoteric or anything like that controversial. I'm not trying to be like that, but certainly if you are for the cause of protecting the integrity of families, then, you know, absolutely, you know, I encourage you to stand up and fight with me. But for everyone, whether you are a part of that cause or not, I hope to bring healing to all of you, and that these videos will help you no matter who you are, what your walk of life is. Whether you're the child in the CPS case or the parent, or you're not involved with any of that and you've just had a lot of toxic relationships and trauma throughout your life that you're having to deal with and overcome. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you later.